Okay, welcome back to the Music Maestro Podcast, a behind the scenes of the music biz. This time I'm joined by a creative powerhouse. She's recently launched her own creative agency, It Girl, previously content commissioner at Polydor,
Yes.
Worked with artists like Baby Queen, Kian Ducrot and Becky Hill. Joanna, Asha, szyczewska.
Yeah, that was really good. We spent lots of time practicing how to say my Polish surname.
It's a difficult one, not going to lie. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah. Okay. You know the format of this. I wanna spend some time talking about your early life, your career, get involved in some questions, some really interesting ones I've got for you today as well. This is like unfamiliar territory for you, right? Because you're normally used to being on the other side of the camera in your role at Polydor, what you did there, and I guess what you do now. We're going to get into a lot more into kind of your new venture. But I think, Polish surname, correct?
Yes, I'm
so,
Polish.
And you know, we were speaking before we started, and obviously, Poland is where it all started for you, right?
Yes.
So let's go back to the beginning. Let's talk about your early life and I guess how you ended up in England.
That's a very good question. I was born in a very small town, probably about 40,000 people.
Wow. Where? What was it called?
It's called Brzeg.
Okay, no, I'll leave you to say that one. Yeah.
Hello to everyone from Brzeg. And yes, I have spent 19 years of my life there. And then after I finished high school, I've moved to Portsmouth. Also, hello, Pompey. Yeah. To all my fans, hi. And yeah, it was something that I always wanted to do. I have never really envisioned myself living in Poland. I guess I always just wanted more. I was very hungry for experience, and my parents always worked in Germany, and my dad kind of always took me around, like lots of people who were more into art world that what I would experience in Poland. And I guess I felt inspired and had lots of different influences.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've done my college kind of equivalent of like GCSE in maths and physics.
Oh my days.
So
that's serious.
That was the biggest mistake of my life.
Why?
Because that's when I realized that my brain just doesn't work that way.
Okay, well, it was only the biggest mistake if you completely failed it.
I actually didn't fail. I was great. I had amazing grades and I passed with flying colours. But I think...
Not a fail then. That's not a fail.
No. I guess I was just not fulfilled. I was always drawn more towards films. I guess that's where it all started.
Yeah, you mentioned that because I guess typically when we had this with Norma in the previous episode, in that normally when we speak to people, their path has been pretty clear that it's going to be music. Now, you mentioned that your passion started in film, and actually, you know, when you came over to the UK, you weren't necessarily angling for a job in music because what was your degree in film and?
It was film and television studies.
Film and television, so it seems like you sort of, I guess, more found yourself in music rather than aimed to get into the music industry like a lot of the people we talk to. But when you were young, everyone loves music, and so you must have as well. Like, what were you into when you were growing up?
I mean, I was growing up in Poland, so we do have to remember of the influences of rap and hip hop culture.
Yeah.
So I probably just kind of stolen lots of, I used to live next to a group of boys and they were listening to lots of Tupac. So I think Tupac was my first artist that I found myself Googling information about.
Do you have a favourite Tupac song?
I think it's probably going to be Ghetto Gospel or California Love, actually.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. But then I guess I've discovered a search tool and I end up more in the world of Pink and Avril Lavigne and that kind of aesthetic. And then it just moved towards actual rock. Arctic Monkeys, Blur, Kings of Leon, the first festival, Flower Crown, all of that.
Okay, great. So, like you say, film was the thing for you. we'll get into favourites. We've got a separate section for that. I'm interested to know what your favourite film is. When it comes to education, like you've said, you did your high school, college years in Poland, then came over to Portsmouth to do your degree in film and what again?
Film and television studies.
Film and television studies. What was that, as BA?
Yeah, it was BA. So it was like a mix of practical filmmaking, which I think my main thing was directing and like DOPing, and also just mix of like cultural studies. So I ended up spending quite a lot of time writing about comedy.
Okay.
And feminism versus comedy, as well as like impact of media and pop culture on what we see. So basically a lot of things that I kind of was fascinated about is how pop culture and art kind of reflect everything that happens in the world. And obviously I don't want to talk about that since we're on the podcast, but at that time it was all about like 9/11. So it was pre and post 9/11 and how it affected art. But maybe let's not go into conspiracy.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll leave that there. But so like I was saying, like the music wasn't necessarily the original draw for you as a career. What was it about film that drew you in?
I think it was escapism and the stories. I was obviously growing up in like a very small town and there was not much to do. And my dad is absolute film maniac, cinephile. Is that how you call it?
I don't know. Cinephile.
Cinephile, yes, cinephile. That was the word we were looking for. So yeah, he was really into films, and he used to get lots of illegal torrents.
Yeah.
And he
not anymore.
Not anymore. No one's doing that anymore. Obviously Netflix now and subscribing. But he made me basically archive all his films and write them on like big lists.
Okay.
And rate them.
Oh, amazing.
In like a scale 1 to 5.
Yeah.
So I had to watch everything and just rate it for my dad.
Amazing. Okay. So while you're doing film and television degree, I'm right in thinking that this time you weren't even thinking about a job in music, right? Because that came a lot later. I guess how from your degree, how did you progress into a kind of get yourself onto the path of a career in visual content, whatever it may be that I guess you're doing now?
So I was working in a live music venue called the Fat Fox.
Okay.
And lots of my friends were performing and were musicians, and I had my little point and shoot camera, and I just ended up following them around and making like small music videos, not really thinking that it's like a career or something that can actually end up in ever being a job.
Yeah.
It was just something that I would, I don't know, be doing during my bar shift.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be the way that a lot of, I mean, I was the same when like there was things that as music enthusiasts we did because we loved, not even realizing that people get paid to do that as a job. So similar kind of thing with you. So where did it go from there, I guess, in terms of your next step in your career?
Well, one day I decided to quit the bar job, and I was like, okay, I have a degree. I should do something that is not traveling. And I ended up somehow becoming a paddleboarding instructor. But with that came the role of a content manager. So I was content manager.
Okay. So paddleboard instructor and content manager.
Yeah.
Is that your job title?
Yes, that was my job title. And that basically, apart from, I don't know, running meditations on the water and teaching people how to paddleboard, it was also capturing videos on everything, like GoPros, drones.
Yeah.
And just sharing them and running all the social media. So yeah, just editing the videos, putting the videos, photography, everything.
So what was next after that?
So then I decided to move to London, and I've applied for a job in post-production. So I ended up getting this position in a very, very mysterious place around Green Park. I was working as like edit assistant and helping in like distribution of this film by this organization called Project DAO. Okay. By someone called Ilya Kshankowski. It's very interesting.
Okay.
maybe it's better not to dive too much
Yeah,
to controversy
fine,
around
okay.
the film and all the films. But it was very, very interesting. It was a whole world that was created as an exhibition, and artists like Marina Abramovic or Massive Attack has taken part in it. It was almost like a social experiment.
Yeah.
I've joined in like a very late stages when they were mainly around like festivals and all of that. But that's when I found a job being advertised for Polydor, and I've decided to apply.
And so am I right in thinking that initially your role at Polydor was as an intern?
Yeah. So I started as an intern.
Again, was that in the creative content team, or is it just the wider part of Polydor?
It was in the creative content team. It was way smaller back then. It was mainly just video commissioning. And yeah, I kind of just really connected with the creative director of Polydor, Samara. I hope I can make it a name. And I was just in awe of like everything that she's done, especially like her work for like Lana or Celeste. And I was like, you've literally created who I am.
Yeah.
Like I was watching the videos you've commissioned as a teenager, and I was obsessed.
Okay. So Samara's a bit of an idol for you then?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
She's amazing. So I think to work with her and across the years, it was really, really amazing. It was such a wonderful experience, like very fast paced. But honestly, like getting like experience from a major label is just it's very fast paced, but you end up just really learning so much so quickly, and everything is always changing. And the truth is that you do work with the best people in the business, and you learn from the best artists and the best professionals. So I was very, very lucky to be able to spend 4 years there.
Yeah, just over its seat, I think it was in the end, and solid bunch, the Polydor label. I've done a lot of work with you guys and the Polydor creative content team.
We did, yes.
Samara, we've got Louis, we've got Sky, we've got Emily and Ariel.
Yeah.
Were you guys close? Hopefully.
Very close. We are very close friends.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sweet. So, I guess we'll get into maybe some of the campaigns you worked on at your time at Polydor. So, like we mentioned there, it was just over 4 years that you spent, and I agree. When you're in that kind of setup, it's extremely intense. But obviously, I guess the from that you do learn so much in quite a short space of time. Tell us then how It Girl came about. This is your new creative agency to start with, right? So I'm going to read out your little description.
Yeah, go for it.
IT Girl is a 360 creative agency focused on creative producing.
It Girl, no IT Girl.
Did I say IT?
Yeah.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
IT.
Okay, It Girl.
It Girl.
Do you know what? I can't believe I did that, because originally that's what I was reading it as IT Girl.
No, IT.
It's not
the IT
you're not in that
crowds.
department. It
No.
Girl is a 360 creative agency focused on creative producing, commissioning and content ideation. The concept is rooted in creative expression and unapologetic authenticity.
Yes.
Yeah. You were mentioning that actually, even since you've started, it's sort of gone beyond that into direction. Is that right?
I think there is a huge element of creative direction. Obviously it's very early days, but the baby is running.
Yeah.
the It Girl is running, and it's really good. But I think now I have more time to maybe spend with the artists, and also it's just very interesting, because I think whether it's within major label structure or in the freelance world, there is no like a solution that will fit everyone. So there's no
one size fits all.
No, it never happens. It's always different. It's really difficult to say this is how you do your job. It's impossible. I don't think it's really possible to teach someone how to be a content commissioner or a creative director, or I think it's just always different.
Because what you're saying, there's no like umbrella term in terms of the I guess the application of being a content commissioner. Because that actually reminds me of what Tasha Demi, who we had on previously, she was saying, like, she believes you should put a bespoke team together for each artist and campaign, dependent on who that artist is or what the campaign looks like. Not just, okay, here's a team and here are a load of singles, basically. So it sort of aligns with what you're saying.
That's very true. I almost see it as a creative matchmaking.
Oh, wow. Did you coin that term?
I am. Yeah, I guess I am coining that term right now. I think it's so important choosing the people that are working around the artist. And it's everyone, from the makeup artist, hair person, stylists, BTS person. I think it's so important because the busier it gets, those people they will be almost like a family. They will see each other if they like each other, and if it really works out, they will see each other all the time, and they will become a part of creative process.
The fact that you haven't got creative matchmaking in your missions, that has to go in there.
I think yes.
That is a belter. Okay, that's really interesting. Let's then rewind a bit, go back to the Polydor years. You were working on some great campaigns there with artists like Crawlers, Baby Queen, and Becky Hill. Is that right? Maybe, I mean, I guess, were there any of those campaigns that particularly stood out for you that I guess either you got a lot out of or was just a bit of a highlight for you?
I guess something that is very important to say, that every campaign is a collaborative process.
Yeah.
So there's so many people involved, even from the creative team to other people, that it's really hard to kind of ever narrow down the I don't know, creative ownership. I think there's just so many cooks that are involved in the decisions that's the very difficult part. But I think that my most favorite part is always seeing the journey. Yeah. Seeing the journey of the artist and seeing someone being signed, and you're hearing the first demos and they have no followers on Instagram. And then suddenly, I don't know, a few years after, you see them performing or supporting one of the biggest acts in the world. And it's just a very rewarding thing to observe, especially.
And be a part of, I guess.
And be a part of. I guess it's there are some moments that are really giving you goosebumps, especially during live performance. Yeah. When you see all the fans.
Did you have that with a particular artist?
It's hard to say the particular artist. Obviously, I do really love working with Bella, and I think that Bella Baby Queen, and observing the whole process and her growing as an artist. But also, I've done some little bits and bobs with Samara on Sam Fender, and I think seeing him performing on Glastonbury and just seeing just all of it, the heat, the fans, especially the fans. I think observing the fans must be one of the favorite things in the world. Yeah. Because you kind of observe people adapting certain creative elements. Yeah. It's very interesting.
Okay. When you said creative director and content commissioner, is that what you would describe yourself as?
Yes, I guess I am.
Okay. So when you're doing that for artists, whether this was at Polydor or what you're doing now with It Girl, what are you looking for, and what makes content stand out?
I think that authentic expression is very important. Mm-hmm. I think that the audience right now is exposed to so much all the time, every hour of the day, constant scrolling, that I think people are capable of feeling whether something is not quite there and it's not authentic. I think especially the younger audiences, they have this radar, and they can just really easily spot when something is dishonest. Yeah. So I think that's also what was part of my mission. I feel like the artists that I'm very drawn to, and that actually what you read about It Girl was written when I was really inspired by Julia Fox. Okay. And I was reading her novel Down the Drain, and I was like, oh, it's all about authenticity. Being yourself is someone that no one can ever take away from you. Yeah. No one can ever pretend to be you in that sense. That's the most valuable asset that you have as a human, is to be yourself. Yeah, totally. So I think that's very important for me whenever I have interaction or meetings with artists, to make sure that their vision and who they are and where they see themselves is being expressed. And sometimes it's trial and error as well. Sometimes you don't get it right the first time or not the second time. Sometimes you get it right straight away. So it's always a process.
So, I mean, that's what I was going to ask is obviously with each, I guess, campaign, when you're commissioning that content, there are going to be some campaigns where you might get lucky or, maybe lucky is the wrong word, but it comes together easier. But I would imagine having, been involved in it in some capacity, it can be extremely challenging and probably at some times extremely frustrating. What are some of the kind of common challenges that you come up against?
I would say one of the most common challenges sometimes is not quite, I think it really depends who you're working with. And I think that everything visual is a language. So some people some people can understand what you're trying to say very easily, but sometimes it kind of gets lost.
Yeah.
I always say I have this Apple theory, another term that I can coin.
Okay.
But basically it's when I say apple to you, like what do you imagine?
I think when you say apple to me, immediately I thought of a red and green actual fruit. However, the device in front of me is what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And some people can see a green apple or a sliced apple or an apple pie. So I think it's very important to kind of notice that what we see in our heads is very different. Mm-hmm. So it's also about communicating what we're actually trying to say and translating that to everyone else involved.
Yeah.
Photographer, the stylist.
Yeah, that's very good.
Editor.
Another very good one. I'll give you that because I mean I think one of the things that we've struggled at with Music Maestro is because things are easily misconstrued, or when you've got words and you're someone's telling you these words, and then from that you need to create something visual. It's impossible, right? And that, I mean, for me personally, I'm always like, well, send me a visual reference because these words mean nothing to me until I've got that visual reference. And things like mood boards or whatever, they always kind of help when you're trying to piece together, because something in somebody's head and then trying to get that out into a visual is an extremely difficult process. And I think it's underestimated? Definitely.
I mean, in the words of our queen, Charlie XCX, on the mood board, she's an inspo. And I think it's so important getting the references right and collecting as many images, but sometimes not necessarily directly from music videos. I think sometimes it's so important to look above and beyond where we can take the inspiration from. I mean, I love looking through like older magazines. I think that's one of my favorite things. Wow. Or like fashion campaigns that were done like 20, 30 years ago. Because it's always kind of working up in cycles as well. Okay. But yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges, because I feel like even from our experience working together. Yeah. I think especially on the last project that is not out yet. But yeah, there are so many changes sometimes to translate what's going to end up being created to the artists. Yeah. But also, you have probably motion designers that you have to brief, and I'm briefing you and we're having the conversation. Yeah. But yeah, there's always so many people involved.
And also, I kind of think the other thing is that sometimes even something that you have in your head, anyone could have in their head, when they actually see that come to fruition, they go, actually, it doesn't look very good.
Exactly. So this is the apple seed versus the apple tree. And suddenly there's like, what the hell is this?
Totally. Okay. It's interesting that you're talking about magazines, because I guess the modern day equivalent of magazines, I'm going to say, is like social platforms now. So when how does social platforms influence your creative ideas, your content strategies for whoever that artist might be? Do you kind of have any tips on what to look out for?
I mean, I will be honest. I am someone who's chronically online. Okay. I love being online.
Screen time's high.
Screen time is high. Yeah. I have always been online. I was very active on Tumblr. That was my safe space. Yeah. So I think that kind of translated further into like what I'm doing right now. I obviously have my favorites. I think Instagram is my favorite, but maybe that's because I'm 29.
Yeah.
I think, is she Gen Z or is she a millennial? That's a question to put on this podcast. But I think it does depend. I think the way we consume media and platforms changes depending on our like circle. Like I'm always like shocked when I see someone using Snapchat. I'm like, how are you using Snapchat? But it's so important, and it's important to understand the younger audiences that are using Snapchat and are using Discord. And I think something that is very important to note is that I think that social media are going to become more and more anonymous. So we're going to come back to that kind of Tumblr online forum aesthetics. And I think that, I don't know, people who are probably now like 7, 8, when they are slightly older, I don't think they will want to be online as much.
Wow. Okay.
Like, I'm not sure if you've seen, but like Nokia just brought the old model of the phone back, then Nokia 3310.
Oh, wow.
And the kind of advertisement around it is that being offline is the new luxury.
Yeah. Okay.
Is a social status. Like if you can be offline, sorry. That's
what?
Like
That's the new. That's okay. Well, that's the cool thing.
Yeah.
To be offline. Well, that leads me on to my next question. Actually, when we're talking about trends in I guess in content, but I'm actually thinking from a kind of content creation, stroke music marketing, with trends. And you mentioned meme culture before we started. Like, what are you most excited about, and how do you see the next few years sort of shaping up?
I think something that I'm always very excited about is change and how everyone adapts to change.
Yeah.
I mean, I love observing. I think it's a bit of like a chain reaction. So first you will see things online created just by everyday people.
Yeah.
But then that slowly gets translated into this like underground alt culture. Then it slowly boils up to the mainstream. Then it becomes a music video, and I think then film. But obviously it all kind of informs each other at the same time.
Yeah.
So I think I'm just very excited for, I mean, it's never going to stay the same. But I do love just seeing things becoming different, and also people finding new ways to communicate. I mean, back in the day, like 5 years ago. Back in the day, 5 years ago, the way people were making TikToks, especially in lockdown, was very different. It was seen as this like cringe platform when people do this like funny dance. And I think now it's changed. And I think something that is on the rise for a while now is just the content that is very natural, very organic, very like almost vlog focused, when you film yourself from like, I don't know, lower angle and just running around through I don't know, the airports, and it's more natural. It's not supposed to be curated. It's just a reflection of you in the moment. But I think it also adapts the way that we perceive ourselves and the like reality around us.
Okay, and so meme culture, it doesn't seem to be going anywhere, right?
No, everybody loves memes.
They seem to have loved memes for a while. Are we still going to have memes in a few years' time? You think?
Definitely. I mean, I think that's the ultimate language of internet. I think if you look at the very start, you know, all the memes with this like funny frogs the humor of YouTube, the whole unicorn thing. I forgot what was his name, but that was the very start of the internet. That was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. It was a humor that made no sense in a way, just words and an image, and it creates a meaning. But I think that's also how you create so many like niche-like subcultures. Yeah. In a way. So there's so many niches on TikTok. There's, I don't know, so many aesthetics. There is a swamp core, coquettes. There is everything.
Okay, well, one thing I do want to talk about is obviously when you're commissioning content for artists, you like you say, it's not a one size fits all, and different artists want different things. Different artists need to be presented in different ways. If you're, let's say you're an unsigned artist, and I think like there's a pressure on all artists to create more and more content, understandably so, because to be honest, it tends to be linked to attention. The more attention you've got, the bigger the platform, the bigger the community, and then you can push your music to these people, or build fans basically. So if you're an up and like imagine you're advising an up-and-coming artist, what would your advice be to them as, I guess, content creators who are content creators, music artists, but content creators that are looking to break into the music industry? What would your advice be?
I think it is very tricky because I feel like that's the conversation I'm having with a lot of my friends who are artists. I mean, so many of my friends are musicians, and I'm speaking with them on a daily basis. And I think that the biggest struggle is understanding, I think for the artist and for you, if you're listening, to understand where you want to be.
Yeah.
Because if you are an artist who wants to make money out of what you're doing and be a commercial success, then you have to walk those paths, and you have to do things that nowadays require to be a full-time identity that is being performed through so many channels. But I do think that it's an opportunity. Like if you are a creative person, then you don't see it as an obstacle. You just see it as another way in which you can express it. And it's not necessarily directly related to music, but I think that there is a way for everyone to find a language and how they like express themselves about it. I actually had like a great chat about it when I filmed podcast with Becky Hill and Fatboy Slim, who we know made so many amazing music videos across.
Iconic.
His career, like obviously, like iconic pieces, absolutely, like probably one of the best music ever, like music videos ever made. And I think something that he said that really kind of got stuck with me is that, oh my God, this is so much fun. Like artists nowadays have so many ways to express themselves, which is like back day, if you didn't get the slot on MTV, you couldn't do it. Like that it was so important to have like a team. Whereas now you can, I can record something right now and put it on my Instagram, and I can reach so many people. So it's also using the power that we have as people to express ourselves. And I think that kind of draws back the full circle into authentic expression and identity. So what works for me probably wouldn't work for you.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, so important to try to understand it, and that's trial and error again.
Yeah. I mean, do you think it's fair to say that if you want to be a music artist with a level of commercial success, it is essential for you to be creating content on a regular basis?
I think in a way, yes, but there are exceptions. And I think it's like one of my favorite artists is Dean Blunt, and he is not online. Like he releases his music through WeTransfer right now. He's not online. His presence is very limited. He's kind of just really, it's not participating in that. But I also do think he is able to do it, because in the moment where he gained the wider listenership was around his like collaboration with like A$AP Rocky. So he's like artist. So I think there are cases in which your craftsmanship can come to the front and you can do it. But again, I feel like it's so rare like nowadays. If you're not established right now and you don't have famous friends, it's hard.
Although what you mentioned there would tie into the idea that offline is becoming cool.
Yeah,
right?
I guess it's probably cool. I mean, I have to be online. I don't think I could do my work if I wasn't.
No, I would
online.
definitely tend to agree. Okay, but I guess in this world of being an artist, creating content to build an audience, community, etc., with so much music, number one, like they talk about hundreds of thousands of tracks being uploaded to Spotify per day, and actually off the back of that, so much content being created every day. I guess the question, which is the holy grail for everyone, how do you stand out?
I think that coming from a slightly different angle, I think what stops people from creating the content in the first place is the fear of judgment.
Yeah.
But then we have to remember that there is so much being created, so much like digital mess and trash and rubbish, that the truth is that you just have to, I think, get into I think it's almost like a ritual. You have to kind of plan it and reserve a time to do it. And there is a big risk that it's not going to stand out, and it's going to be very frustrating for a very long time. But suddenly you're going to wake up one day and someone's going to share something.
Yeah.
somewhere and suddenly it's gonna go viral.
Yeah.
But again, is the goal to go viral or is it longevity?
Yeah. No, totally.
And actual career and craftsmanship. I think that being viral helps, or going viral helps.
Yeah, I guess it depends. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I would tend to if you were there wanting things to go viral. One, I don't know how much you can engineer that type of thing. But two, that would sort of for me indicate that you want the instant fame rather than the kind of long term building a loyal community or army of fans, basically. So interesting stuff. I want to talk about It Girl now. How long have you been doing this? A few months now?
Yes, so I've been a freelance creative director for 3 months now. I feel like I don't really love the term creative director.
Why not?
Because
do you direct creatives?
Yes, I do, but I feel like there is a certain opinion about someone who like calls themselves a creative director.
Yeah, I call myself a creative director.
Yes, everyone, probably everyone in like East London calls themselves a creative director, especially on their like Hinge bio.
Yeah,
Talking
totally.
about that. So I think it's very commonly used, but I think it's mostly about being able to actually do things. So I guess it's more being a creative producer and someone who makes things happen. I think that's how I see myself.
Okay.
Turning vision into like tangible, cohesive reality.
Cool. Okay. You've only been doing it a few months, but you've already been working on some exciting projects. Are there any that have been done and dusted that you can talk about?
I think they probably will be out by the time it's out. So I've been working with Self-Esteem and Moonchild Sanelli. It's been very exciting projects. I feel like there's so much work and passion that was put into creating that world. And again, I remember just when I started working with Rebecca and her team, and I put this huge deck of like photographers and everyone, and it's so satisfying when there's someone that is chosen that you really push to be chosen, and suddenly it's like really good. We worked with this photographer called Joanna van Nuffel, and she's just created this like whole world, and it's all looking amazing. There was a video directed by Piers Dennis, and I'm very excited for the world to see Self-Esteem.
Amazing. Do you have like a dream artist you want to work with?
Absolutely, and it's Rihanna.
Wow. Okay.
It's Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. I would say if I could work with both of them, that's like a goal. I have like a vision of me like driving convertible through LA after just finishing a shoot with
It's amazing. And actually funny you mentioned vision, because that is my next question. Like, I guess with It Girl up and running now, and you've already kicked off with some great campaigns, what is the ambition with It Girl?
I think that I see it as a creative ecosystem, almost like a little spider web. I do want to connect with other people and other creatives. So yes, if you want to work together, let me know. Slide into my DMs, because I do want to expand, and I do want to turn it into more of like a support network of people and creatives working together. I have some things in my to-do dream list that are focused on maybe having like a content channel or some kind of printed magazine or events. I think that would be very cool. But again, as I said, the baby is kind of running right now, so I'm struggling to like sit down. But I did have some meetings in the last week, so I hope that more things will happen soon.
Amazing. Where did the name come from?
So the name. So I think as everything was happening in my life and I was transitioning into freelance, I was actually reading Down the Drain by Julia Fox, which I know I've mentioned before.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just very inspired by women and working with women. I run woman circles in a warehouse where I live in Hackney Wick.
Okay.
And I think I found myself, I noticed that throughout my life, I found myself really inspired by certain like archetype. And I just kind of decided to have fun with it. I don't think it's not supposed to be serious. I'm taking it very lightly. And it's obviously really inspired by like early online culture and blogging and GIFs and Tumblr. So it's kind of rooted in that almost like childlike teenage like expression. And yeah, sometimes when I make like some memes or something, I would share a picture of like me 14 behind the screen being like, this is your CEO. Because I think this is what it is. This is like the core of the ideation.
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, we're near the end actually, I think. I want to ask, what did I want to ask?
I actually have something that I think is worth talking about.
Oh, okay, that's good. That works for me.
So I was thinking earlier when we were speaking about fan base.
Yeah.
And the like amount of followers and longevity.
Yeah.
And all of that. And I think it's very important to know that you can have 15,000 followers, but none of them actually follow you for your music. So that's something that wouldn't translate into people actually buying physical products. So I think when you're creating this whole world, it's important to know that sometimes 100 fans or 10 fans, even 10, just like start with. And fans that are loyal, who are actually gonna come to your gig and buy the merch and support you, are worth so much more than like 5,000 people you just got from very short viral moments.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what's interesting? Actually, I saw the other day about a woman who had created a $1 million business off the back of just over 6,000 followers on Instagram, which sort of goes exactly into kind of what you're saying there, that it is really it's about quality over quantity in that respect, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it still depends, because obviously if you have lots of followers, you're probably gonna get lots of free stuff from brands that you can wear.
But I mean, beyond that, ultimately, it's got to go. There is always they're always looking at engagement. So you can have 1 million followers, but if you haven't got that engagement, then you can kind of see through that, right?
That is very true, and I definitely seen that. I've seen kind of artists that have lots of followers posting a video, and especially if there is like no spend behind it, you see, okay, like there's no one's really watching it. And I think that's the part when it's quite upsetting to realize that you actually you have no fans. I mean, I don't think that is really a case, but I think that comes down to building a community.
Yeah.
And I think having a community and people who believe in you, who are your friends, and that kind of comes back to the creative matchmaking. If you have people around you that are you like work with, and it's your like spider web of like support, then it's all gonna turn into this like vehicle.
Yeah.
Because if you I sometimes think about the painter Sloan. I sometimes think about him and the whole like community around this, like the cafe, the screenings, the like I don't know, like events where people make music or like showcase artists. It's a whole community.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so great.
Yeah, loyal fan base, basically. Yeah. I remembered what I was going to ask you now. How have you found, I guess, the transition from working within, the biggest record label in the world to one of the most successful labels within that, working within that corporate structure to now doing your own thing? There are, I guess, a lot of people, myself included, that have taken a similar path of kind of working within that and then taking that jump and not knowing what that jump entails. Now, I guess maybe can you share some of the learnings that you've got from your short time doing this?
I think that the hardest part for me was the stress. I think I was so used to just working around like lots of people and bouncing energy like a little ball. But I think now I kind of found myself just learning so much about how I work and who I am, how I interact with the world. Like, I think you just end up learning so much about yourself. And also, I think it made me feel like stronger and like trust myself, trust the words that I say, like stop apologizing to people for every single little thing, just have a bit more of like ownership about what I'm doing. And I mean, I'm still learning and it's so early and I have no idea where it will go, but it's definitely, I've learned more about stress managing and what it takes. That it's a lot of work. You end up working every day
Yeah,
because it's something that you care about.
totally.
And yeah, I haven't had a day off since
Yeah,
since I went freelance.
It's funny though, because like on one hand, people will hear that working every day, oh no, I don't want to do that. But the flip of that is when you're doing something, one, that is your own, but two, that you love, working every day is not really, it's not a job. You're not reviewing it as like, oh, I've got to work today. Ultimately, if you're loving it, you do it every single day. Would you agree?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I think it's like a relationship as well when you have to state boundaries also with yourself and the people that you work with. And I think that's the part that like I'm still working on. But it feels different. It definitely feels different. Also because there's like no one to blame anymore.
Yeah, accountability, right? Yeah,
like
totally.
I am accountable for my own action. There's no one to get annoyed anymore or like project because you're not part of the bigger company. It's just you.
Yeah, totally.
Which also comes with like perks and
Yeah. Okay, amazing. We're nearly at the end. I've got one final question, which I'm sort of beginning to ask at the end of every one now. But that is like with all the experience that you've got, and there's a lot more to come. What would and I guess with everything that you've learned during your time, even way back to uni or your time at Polydor, what would be your one single piece of advice to someone who wants to follow a similar path to you?
Okay, the best piece of advice from me would be to really follow your gut and really trust your instincts. And also do not be scared to reach out and like reach out to people in DMs, like make friends. Like I think the most important thing is the people around you, the community that you have, sharing your vision, working with other creatives, being passionate about what you do, and just kind of not giving up, because I think that the journey is really long. And so it's so easy to like give up, especially without knowing anyone in the industry. But in the end, you never know where I don't know, even being a part of like, you know, someone else's journey will take you. So definitely don't be scared to send that DM. I guess working on things that don't seem as exciting at first, like being a paddleboarding instructor or other things. I think just take what comes, remember where you're going, and just learn. And
Cool. All right. Well, listen, Joanna, Asha, szyczewska. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, but
what do you mean it's not right?
So Asha is Joanna.
We said this. It's like saying Joanna.
It's really difficult to explain to everyone in England, but basically it's like Robert and Rob.
Okay. So how come you put Asha in your, like, it's everywhere, right? All lowercase.
I think it's because I want, like, 50% of people that I know that are my, like, real life friends would call me Asha, but then the people that I work with would call me Joanna, and my brain just goes, it's just not even Joanna, my name is Joanna anyway.
Okay.
There's a lot of names going on.
Okay, well, listen, whatever your name is, thank you very much for doing this, and best of luck with it, girl, and I look forward to working with you loads more.
Thank you so much.
Nice one, mate.